Hello everyone. In this video, we will explore how to deploy Java microservices on ECS cluster using service discovery option and how those microservices communicate with each other. In my example, this is the sample architecture of a Spring Boot application where I have three services where you could see I have the client service, I have hello service, and I have word service, which is running as an ECS services inside an ECS cluster. And everything is in the private subnet as you can see in the screenshot, and there is an ALB which is running in the public subnet, which makes a request to your client service, and client service will get all the data from hello service and word service and present it to the external client. So how that things works, and here you could see that we have that Amazon Route 53 service registry. So basically it is creating an entry for each of the services in Route 53 using service discovery option. We will see in the demo how it is being done. And this is like for any microservices to work on ECS service cluster, all services needs to be registered with AWS Route 53. And how that will happen using ECS service discovery. And as I explained, ALB, which is part of public subnet, will call the client service and get the data from both the services. Okay, so let's go in detail and see how we can deploy it. So there are a lot of steps that you have to do for this demo. Like first you need all those microservices. So in this is my GitHub repo for this. And I have these three services: hello service, hello word client, and word service. This is a very simple Spring Boot applications, and it is getting compiled using Maven, and I'm using Docker file. And you could see that it's very easy Docker file, which is just using JDK and just building the image. And from the code perspective also, it is a very simple kind of hello world program where you will see just data. When this service will run, you will just see hello from hello service. So this is the hello service. Similarly, you have the word service also, and this is the client service. So this is where how it will communicate with the microservices. So here you could see that I am directly using the URLs of the hello service, how to communicate with those microservices. So in this, you could see that this is how I am just calling them. So we will see how these URLs will get created and and how that works. We will see that part in the demo, but I just wanted to show you this is what it is present in this code, and you can change those variables or those URLs according to your project. So for this, first step is we have to build and package the application, right? Second, we have to build the Docker image and push to ECR repo. I will be using ECR repo in this example. In the VPC, we have to create a security groups which allows the traffic within the VPC so that one task like your hello service can communicate to another service within the VPC. And we will create a security groups for ALB so that you can access your ALB on your browser. We will create the IAM roles for your ECS task definitions. We will create task definitions for each of the services, and we will create a cloud map namespace that is called your service discovery option. And at the end, we will create an ECS cluster, and inside that create an ECS services using service discovery option. So the prerequisite for this, you should have AWS CLI configured on your machine, and you can clone this repo if you want to follow this article. And I am using VPC which has one private subnet and two public subnets. So you can use whatever you want, but it has a requirement that you should have at least one private and two public. Okay, so now the first thing, I have already cloned this repo here. So here you could see that I have cloned this. I have this on my machine. Let me just show you. So here you could see that I have all the services running here. Let me just clear it. I have all the services here, hello service, hello world service and everything. So you can go to each of them and first just run the ambient package for each of the for each of the services. So it will basically generate the jar file. So this steps you can do for all the three services. Once you have the jar inside your target folder, we can build the Docker images and push to ECR repository. So for that, what you have to do? First, you need to create an ECR repository. So let's just go there and you can go to your ECR repo. And here you could see that there is a public and you can create a new repository like this, create repo, public one. You could put the name of your repo, whatever you want, and just click on create. That's it. With all default options, you can just create it. So I already have these three repo. Once you have these, you could see that there is a push commands available, like how to push now in this ECR. So this is first, you have to have the authentication. So you can just copy those commands and just run it here. So you will see that login succeeded. And after that you can just build your service. So you have to be on I'm in the hello service, so you can build it, docker build hyphen whatever name, and it will just use your docker file. So this is how you can build it. And after that we will be doing the tagging of your tagging of our image. You can just tag like this, docker tag, and your image details, and at last you can just push it. So this is how you can just push your images here. So once it is done for all your services, it's the same process that you need to do for all the three services. So now you have all the three services, all the images for your three services inside the ECR repo. So once it is done, I have put all the detailed instructions here also if you want to refer, but yes. Now we have to create the security group. So you can go to your EC2 like this and click on security groups. And here you could see that I have this one. So you could also create one and make sure to have the inbound rule like this, all traffic within the VPC. And in this you could have your custom, your IP, or wherever you want that port you can do that. But yes, this is the important rule, that all traffic within the VPC. So this is first step, like creating the security groups. And then you can create the security groups for your ALB also. So I have one security group for my ALB also. So here you could see that ALB security group, and it has just one rule, like 80 custom. You could have your my IP, you could have anywhere, like from anywhere you want to access it, you can do that. So these are the two security groups that is required. Now you have to create a target group. So let me just go to, all these things are the prerequisite of creating anything. So I'm just doing the prerequisite first, and then I will be creating the actual resources. So this is, you can see that this is my target groups. And how you have to create, you can just click on create target group. You have to select the IP address options, because in the ECS everything is running as an IP there. And you provide your name for your target group. I have this HTTP port as 80 only. You can select your VPC, whatever it is. If you have any health check for your particular application, you could have that health check, and that's it. And click on next, and it's done. That's the That's the only thing that you need for the target groups, and it's done. Create target group. So I already have one, so I will be using that. Now, what is our next step? We have created this. Now we will create the ALB. So for the ALB, you can click on this load balancers, create load balancer, and I'm using the ALB load balancer. So click create, and here you can put ALB test or whatever name you want. I wanted to create an internet facing, and I will be choosing my VPC under which I am working. So this is where you need at least two public subnets, because it says at least two public subnets. And this is what it is. And you see my one public subnet does not attach to the internet facing. So it says that you must have a route to an internet gateway. So to you make sure that your public subnets are properly configured. And I will be using the security groups that I have already created. Listeners, I am good with my port 80 listeners, and this is my target groups that I have to attach to this ALB, and that's it. There are a lot of settings in ALBs that you can do, but for now and for my demo, I'm good with all the default settings. Okay, so once you create your ALB, now we will be working on creating the task definition. For the task definitions, the one most important thing is you have to have an IAM role for that. So if I go there, I created one. If you click ECS role, ECS task execution role, and you can see what permissions I have assigned. It's a cloud map full access because we are using the service discovery option, and this is the Amazon ECS task execution role policy. So you have to use an IAM role which has these permissions at least, so that your demo will work without any issue. Okay. So we have these things. Now we will be working on the ECS part. So for the ECS, the first thing that we have to do is the task definitions. Task definition is basically your container information, right, for your application, like how many containers, what resources, your CPU, your memory, and any environment variables. Anything that you have to specify for your container, you will be specifying in the task definition. So this is how you create, like I'm working with all the Fargate, so you will be selecting the option of Fargate. Click on next, and here you will provide your uh, service name, your task definition name, right? I can put anything. And here your task role. So I showed you like which task role you need it here. Okay, and you can select your operating system. I'm selecting the Linux, and task execution role, task memory, task CPU here. Okay, and this is your container definition where you will be providing your container details, whatever you want to put. Here you will be putting your ECR. So let me just mm, grab that real quick for you. So ECR. So I have this, so you can just type like this here, like this. I have this is hello, and I don't need anything. I don't need any port mapping for this particular service, hello service, so I'm good there. I'm not configuring anything related to the health check. That's it. I don't need to do anything else, and it's done. Click on add. So this is how you can basically create the task definitions, and it will get created there. So this is how you will create task definition for all the three services, but there is a difference for the client service. I wanted to show you what is the difference. So for the client service, if I say client service 1 task role, you will be doing the same steps there. Task memory and add container definitions. Here you will be providing your container name, image, everything. Port mapping. So this is what it is required for the client service, because you if you are attaching the ALB to any services, so that means you have to expose the port, otherwise you won't be able to attach an ALB to your ECS service. And as I shown you in the my architecture diagram here, that this ALB is communicating with this client service. So you need to have the port mapping for client service. Okay, so once you are done here, I can show you. I have all the three task definitions. So here you could see I have the hello service, I have this client service, and how that port mapping looks like, I wanted to show you here. So here you could see, and I have, okay, so this is my client service 2, but my client service 1, it has the port mapping. So here you could see that host port and container port. So now you have all your task definitions there. There is, yeah, you have already created all the task definitions. Now we will be creating a cloud map namespace. So what is cloud map namespace? It is a fully managed cloud resource discovery service. With this, you can define the custom names that I showed you here, right? Like hello.corp. So these are the custom names for your services, and it maintains the updated locations of the dynamically changing resources. Because when your new container task starts up, spin ups or down, they automatically get the new IP and automatically get registered with the cloud map. So you do not need to maintain that, it automatically maintains that. And cloud map is tightly integrated with Amazon ECS. So so now let's create a cloud map namespace. Now you can search for the service AWS cloud map here, and I have one already, but I will show you how to create it. So you could put any name here like test, and I will be doing this option API calls and DNS queries in VPC. You choose your VPC, okay, and you provide the TTL also, because I said that it will create a route 53 entries, and click on create namespace. So this is how you will create any namespace. And once it is done, I'll show you here how it looks like. So if you go to your route 53 in the hosted zone, you see I created this corp. It is a private and created by CloudMap, and it automatically has all this configuration. Now for every service, it automatically create a new record and the corresponding a record and where it goes, like the IP where it is running. So it will do that. Okay, so once it is done, so now we have the cloud map also. Now we will create an ECS cluster and create the services on that. So you can go to your ECS and you can create cluster. I will be using this networking only, and click on next step. You can put your cluster name like test cluster. I'm not creating a new VPC. You can enable the CloudWatch container insights and click on create. So this is how your cluster is created now. Okay, so now we have our cluster ready, and we have all the prerequisites which are required to create any ECS services like task definitions, ALBs, security groups, etc. So let's create service now. So we will go inside our ECS cluster and click on create, and we are using the Fargate, and here I will be selecting my task definition. So first I will be creating for hello service, and you can provide your service name here, and number of tasks I'm running 1. Next step, and here you will be providing your VPC, subnets, and you will provide your security group. So I will be selecting the one which I have created before. I have selected this option auto assign public IP enabled, and this service does not requires a load balancer. So just selecting an option none. And we need service discovery. And here you can say service discovery uses Route 53 to create a namespace for your service which allows it to be discoverable via DNS. So we already created the namespace. You can see corp, and here it's the service discovery name. So you can say that in my code here I am pointing this hello.corp. So whatever you are creating here, make sure you put it in your code also. So it would be like whatever your service name dot your namespace name. So make sure that you follow the same name at both the places, and you can define the TTL and click on next and click on create service. So here you could see that it has created the service, and you see that it's showing you the status, last status, provisioning, and all those stuff. Similarly, the same steps we will be following for the word service also. Okay, so I will create the word service similarly. So let me just click on the task definition of word service, service name, number of tasks. It has exactly the same setting as you did for the client service, no changes. Except your service discovery, now you will be providing it's a different service name. So it's a word service. And TTL you could say 10. Click on next, click create service. So this will create your word service also. Now the third service that we have to create is the client service. So let's click on create, and in client service we will be attaching the ALB. So that is the only difference with the client service. So I'm selecting this option here, and I'm selecting the correct version which has the proper port mapping, and service name, client, number of tasks. Click on next, cluster VPC, subnets, I'm selecting those, and selecting the existing groups. And again, it's your decision, like if you want to use the same security groups for all the services, or you could define different also if you have a different kind of rules according to the services. So it's up to the project on which you are working on. I will be selecting the load balancer, so you can see that it is coming in my drop down, and this is the container to load balance configurations. I already have this. I'm selecting this target group. I am using the existing one which I have created before, and that's it with all the configuration, default configuration. Here I will be doing this, and service discovery name, it's the client, and TTL you can define as a 10. Click on next and click on create service. So this will create this service also, the client service. So now you can see that your word service is running, and there is a way to check, because we have enabled the public IP. You could always browse it on the browser, and this is my URL to access the word service, and here you can see hello from service word n. So that is the reason I put it the public IP, but in general we don't expose it because those are running in the private subnets and in the private VPC. So how you can test it if you want to? You could use the private IPs, or you could use the service discovery endpoint. But you have to make sure that you are connected to the VPN, or either you could launch an EC2 instance in the VPC and then curl your private IP or your service discovery endpoint. So like that you can do it. And and one and now I wanted to show you the Route 53 configuration. So in the Route 53, you see that we are working on this corp hosted zone, and it has created the record. So here you could see that client corp, it has created an A record and it points to the private IP of your Fargate task word, and it has done the same thing. So it means, and whenever that Fargate task stop or restart again, that IP will change, it will automatically updated here. And also if you are running two tasks or three tasks, then you will see the entries of two tasks here. Like if you have two word.corp, because you have running the two services, two tasks, then you will see two entries there. So this is how it will load balanced also properly. Okay, so now you can see all my three services are running. You can see that Zaire task as one and running as one. All of them are running. There are three ways. There are multiple ways you can test it. One is you can use the public IP and access it. So this is the word service, and if I to check if my hello service is running or not, so you can get the IP for that also, like this, and check it if it is working properly. Okay, so here you could see that both the services are running without any issues individually. Now we will check the client service, which is actually calling these two services using the service endpoints. Let's see if that is working or not. Okay, so this is the IP for that, and here if I do this, so you could see that I'm getting the message hello from hello service, hello from service world. So that means it is able to make a communication with other two services. Now we have created the ALB also. So let's go to ALB and we will see if that portion is working or not. So let's click on the load balancer, and this is my load balancer. Here you could get the DNS name. So this is my DNS, and let's see if that works or not. Okay, so this is also working. So our whole configuration is working as expected. We can see the other things like how to check your logs for your task. So here if you go, and in any of the services, if you will go, you'll go here and click on your task. Here you see the logs, and you see my application logs are coming here, and you could watch it in the CloudWatch also. Whatever you have configured in your container definition for the logging, you should be able to see it in the CloudWatch also. So in the logs there are log groups, and here you could see that ECS client service. So these are my logs, and you can see that everything I can see there also. There should be some failure also, but yes, this is how it looks like. Okay, so this is how you can actually validate your logs. And in ECS there are other things like you can check the events, the metrics, CPU utilization, memory utilization of your services, and you can check these things, the events, what happened, reach a steady state, deployment completed, all those things you can check for related to your ECS cluster here.